Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy and Mike. Sorry, I was a little slow on the video
I know.
on there. What an idiot! What happened?
I don't know if we're going to join. Hello, Mike. It's actually really good to see you.
Oh, we made it. Good. Excellent. Technical hurdles over. All right, let's jump into our topic today. Our main topic for today, where we're going to be talking about a Kurt Bueller article that has come out from SQLBI. So Kurt has been spending a lot more time with SQLBI. It sounds like SQLBI has hired him on as either a full-time employee or a heavy writer on their website now. So Kurt was initially Data Goblins, has now moved over to more of the SQLBI space. And I can definitely tell that Kurt is 100% enamored with this MCP land. He somehow found these MCPs. These are for AI generated models that give you control to like run queries, do iterative calculations, all kinds of really fun things. But Kurt has been on a tear recently.
Man.
And I mean, Tommy, whenever Kurt has been producing any kind of comments or data around or Power BI in general, I've always loved to listen to what his thoughts are. He's very well thought out. He's very comprehensive in what he kind of articulates around Power BI. And so to have him jump on so heavily to this MCP experience, it really has me wanting to listen and really to understand and the impact of this. Okay, that's our main topic for today. Let's jump into some news articles here. We get a couple things. So one thing I'll also kind of point out here, Tommy, you're down in Chicago, right?
I am in Chicago. Yeah, all the way down here in Chicago.
All the way down in Chicago. way down in Chicago.
Yeah.
I am super far up in Milwaukee.
Yeah, on the north side, yeah.
I believe our teams are having some
beef
fight to the finish. So I don't know how this long list will last, but Tommy, the Cubs have been trying to play the Brewers here for a while, and they haven't been doing so hot. So I've got to give you a hard time. Your Cubs got to get it together.
Michael, you should know after 4 years, they're probably the second team I support. But Michael, how old? I'm a little offended actually. So. Do I not talk about it enough? Maybe that's it. But yes, for everyone, I do live in Chicago, but you can take someone out of New York. You can't take New York out of them.
That's true. It's not your home team. The Yankees is Tommy's team.
That is where my heart is. But no,
that's where his heart is.
It's been fun to watch because here's the thing. When I moved here, I was like, I gotta like adopt one Chicago team, and I'm like, well, just get rid of the Jets. How bad can it be after that? And then we play you guys every year, and wow. There's a complex there that I didn't know Chicagoans had about Green Bay.
The question is like, do you actually watch the Cub games? Like, do you go to them? Like, is it just kind of like you maybe like catch a news article about them? Like, it's not, you don't follow them as religiously as like the New York Yankees.
I know about what's going on with them about like other baseball. I only got so many games I can watch in a day, my friend.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, those baseball games are quite long to watch.
They actually. We can get into this another day, but they brought this analyst on who basically was part of like the whole Moneyball, and he became like this guy of making baseball better.
Yeah.
They've gotten games down by like, I think it was like 20%. And now every game
pretty good.
Yeah. So it's actually not nearly as bad to watch. So
I'll agree with that. That was one of my complaints with baseball, or still kind of is. It's just kind of like a long game. When I was a kid, I used to play baseball, and I would just be like, I'm sitting out in this outfield, and there's nothing going on. For like, I run all the way out here, nothing happens the entire time, and then I go back in, and I'm like, and then I can't hit this dumb ball to get on first base. It was just, wasn't really my sport, I think. Wasn't really my sport. Maybe had I got into more of the statistics, the numbers, the math behind all the statistics that are captured from baseball, that might have been a bit more interesting to me then, but I never really got into the math.
Oh, dude, anyways, then you're the nerd on the dugout, and I've been the guy like 20% of the time he's going to throw inside. Just letting you know. So you're can't do that.
Tommy's heckling with numbers, I think. You don't know the square root of 2.
Yeah. I'm making my whole team shift because I think there's statistical significance. This guy's likely to hit it right. Anyway, all right, dude.
If you tap the bat on your foot twice, you're 10 times more likely to hit the ball.
This is why these people in statistics, baseball, you cannot think. You know what you think the best baseball players think when they're up? See the ball, hit the ball. Couldn't do that. I was like, all right, he just threw high. So what's the likelihood of him throwing high again?
Yeah, right. It's almost like almost like running like blackjack table where you have like the numbers, like, okay, you have to count every card as it comes through. So, if the odds are slightly bent in your favor or not, but it's so minimal. Like, and you can't want the whole team to be like keeping track of like all the numbers all the time. Exactly. Oh, okay. Awesome. Let's move on. Sorry. I'm sorry.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome, Tommy.
I was just baseball. A bit.
Our teams in Milwaukee are always competitive with teams down in Chicago.
Crazy. So. It is crazy. You guys are always good because you guys are, from a budget point of view too. It's insane.
I don't know if it's something to do with like just the level of like the fact that we're in proximity, we're nearby. Maybe there's something to the effect of like, we're playing above our pay grade because we're trying to keep up with the pay grades that Chicago can produce with their team. So maybe our teams are a little bit above average because we're playing with harder people. It's almost maybe kind of speaks to the idea of like, when I talk about building a team of people, right? I talk about building a team of people, and I want to work with people that are smarter than me or know more than me or be around people in my learning spaces that are more, narrowed in or honed in on their particular skill. One of the people that I can clearly say is out of my league, and I'm just happy to know them, is Daniel Marsh Patrick. I don't know if you know him from the Deneb project.
We stayed together. The MVP summit.
Yep. Yeah, so Daniel Marsh Patrick is the developer for Deneb, which is a interpreter for Vega and Vega Lite inside Power BI Desktop. And so I've had the privilege of working with him over the last couple of months. And he's amazing, incredibly intelligent, understands things that I can't even comprehend. And he's taking these two worlds, like all the knowledge of like Power BI Desktop and how it like handles and passes data from desktop into a visual, which is not simple in its own right. And then he takes this other complex thing like Vega and Vega Lite, understands how it builds every visual, and he's taking these two kind of disparate worlds and merging them together into this product that is Deneb. Does it all for free. Like it's one dude. This one visual. I mean, I guarantee you the number of visuals you see on the Microsoft Fabric store, the one visual called Deneb can likely replace 80 to 90% of all other visuals on the market, on the app source marketplace. The fact that it can do almost anything. So I'm very enamored by the Deneb project. It's so incredibly powerful. I really like what it's doing there. And I kind of feel like Microsoft made a huge miss by not building all their visuals like on a Deneb, Vega and Vega Lite specification. Like there's probably a spec behind each of the visuals that Microsoft produces, but they should have stopped trying to like build every visual with a drag and drop field. Yes, under the hood, there's like a spec, but the surfacey part, like the dragging this field, dragging this data field here, they should let you drag data fields into a pane and then hit like the code button, right? And then, if you're a simple user, you can just drag and drop fields in, you get that simple user experience. But then there should be like a behind the scenes kind of look at the visual. Like here's all the specification to build the visual itself. And then in there, you could add all this extra, code, language, syntax, and then everything could be adjustable. So that, to me, I feel like it's just a big miss, but whatever, neither here nor there.
Dude, you're touching on two things. One, you're basically going on the conversation that we had on Tuesday at the end of the day when we were talking about, hey, you want to do really neat things. There is a technical side of this, but
yes,
that's not
correct.
What the goal is. Okay, that's got to be in episode 2, which is probably more. We can talk offline about this, but Deneb is just JSON, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's simply JSON.
The Deneb is kind of what they would say. It's a visual
language syntax.
Yeah, it's a grammatical language for building visuals. Basically, it's a grammar language. So you just say, I want to build a bar,
right?
And then you say, I'm going to
on logic.
Yeah. I'm gonna bind data to that. I mean, and it's written in JSON, but it doesn't have to be, right? You could use YAML. You could use other types of language.
So the reason I'm saying this is, I mean, I'm sure Daniel's already thought about this, but do you know what all of our favorite tools of the day like to work with, right? And why our AI tools?
Oh, MCP?
No, all of them. Like any tooling that
Markdown.
And JSON, it's kind of like the language that's sent from the API.
Correct.
And also got the field. So, and I think that's been the hardest thing with trying to generate visuals with AI. It just has not been easy because you're trying to get, like, to your point, even Copilot struggles with it because it's trying to take a language or syntax of whatever those Power BI visuals are built on, which is probably not the most friendly for a computer because it's really friendly for the person. And it's probably hard to understand all the different attributes there. But I mean, if you can just simply, I don't know, man. So
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if we can get AI to build an entire application, I mean, now people are touting like they have AIs that can do like Claude Code and other things here that can build entire applications with like a couple clicks. I think Microsoft just released GitHub Spark, and maybe it's been out for a little bit. Did you see that, Tommy?
Yeah.
Okay, so GitHub Spark was really like this. GitHub's dream it, see it, ship it. That's their mantra on this one. And this is a GitHub-enabled experience that you talk to VS Code, and it builds you the app, and then you tweak the app using your language, and then the idea is like you can easily deploy this app right into something that Microsoft's building. So this, if it can build an entire web application, why on earth can't we build a visual?
A good visual, right?
That seems beyond me. Anyways, let's move on. We'll get to more of the AI pieces here in a bit. The world is quickly changing around us, and so before we get into our main topic today, let's hit up some key features, Tommy. There's an article from Microsoft here, the Fabric July feature summary. Let's go through and let's pick some of our favorite features here. We kind of do this every time a release happens. We really like to have people pick out your favorite features. And if you're on the chat right now as well, please let us know what is your favorite feature that was just released from the Fabric July feature summary that was just released by Patrick LeBlanc. Anything that stood out to you, Tommy?
Yeah, I mean, as always, there's a ton to dive into here. I don't know if it's good or bad, and I'm just used to every blog update being 900 pages long.
Sure.
But I'm kind of expecting it now too. Like if you got one that was only just scrolled a little, I think I'd be a little disappointed. But that's the world we live in now. I'm going to start right off the bat. It's all around the data agents. One of the things they're highlighting off the bat too, but there are some really important things that we've talked about, not just when we say a developer, but really if you're going to work with these large language models, you're going to work with these agents. If you're going to do a good job of, in a sense, getting the desired output, it's not sending it to the world and hoping for the best. It's not just understanding, hey, it has a good answer, but why? So one of the big things here is this idea about run execution, where we can actually see the steps it's taking and to kind of come up with a certain answer or deliver the results. And to me, like, this is very important because a part of that life cycle piece is saying, hey, this person asked this question. This is how I interpreted it. And then this is what I looked at. So you can identify right away. Oh, they don't understand what table we're even wanting or whatever that query is, what step that is the process. So it's just going to help us revise what we're trying to do. Because again, right now, data agents, it's only through a conversational piece that someone can create or update them. Which
this is also going to play in, I think, to some of our conversation today around like MCPs, the article that Kurt's writing, like what's going on here. And one of the things that I kind of don't really love about data agents, it doesn't really feel like I get to pick like the model that it's using. It just kind of is. Maybe there's more coming.
Yeah. Actually, I think it's the section above that about choose your data sources.
Choose your data source. That's instructions, but are you picking like Claude Code or like Grok?
I'm sorry. I thought you meant like the table. No.
I'm with you on the idea of picking the kinds of tables and what data is supposed to be used for the AI. I think that's good, but it still seems a little bit. It's rudimentary, I think, maybe a bit. It's a good starting point, but I think there's going to be more features here. But like, what about, the action-based things, right? What about talking to the Copilot and having it do things for you or run multiple queries and then analyze the results and then come back with a deep thinking thing? Right. Now, it seems like many of the main models now are doing this deep think, right? You're letting it spend more time thinking, and actually I kind of enjoy reasoning, right? So I kind of enjoy standing back and letting people just kind of like, asking a model a question and say, deep think on this. And then you can watch it to open up the little thinking box and it'll kind of write down, okay, the requirement is this, the requirement is that. I found, in researching this website page, I found this information. So when you start giving the language model, like, okay, it doesn't think it knows enough information, it can go to find sources of information, draw them in. It's quite interesting. Okay, yeah, a really good point. There's not a, I mean, to be honest, Tommy, when I look at the Fabric blog, usually the Fabric blog list of items is actually quite large.
Yeah.
I would say this time it feels a little bit light in general, just from the items here. So I don't necessarily see this on the list here. One thing I will say is there are some improvements coming for domain tags. So I really like domain tags. Domains are awesome.
Mhm.
But now you can add tags to a domain as well, which I think also seems to be pretty interesting in addition to this. So tagging basically helps you expose different items. So let me step back here for a second. A tag could be added to an item in a workspace, right? So I have a semantic model. I may want to tag it with something, put a tag around the kind of content that's in it, who should use it, its sales, its ops, like something like that. And then the idea is when you go back to the OneLake catalog, tagging is just something you search for. It's something you can come back and reference later. So it kind of helps you like group down items at the tag level. I'm not quite sure which tags you should use yet. I mean, I don't think I would use dev test prod as tags, but like other things. But yeah.
No, you should just create a tag for what the artifact you're creating. Lake house, notebook.
Oh my gosh, please don't do that.
I know, or just like your naming conventions. We know it's a notebook. I can see the icon. But you bring up a good point with the tagging. So because Mike, I'm trying to test tags a different way. And I'm honestly still like, is this a governance based tool or is this a productive based tool? Like, is this something? And I don't know where I'm leaning.
I don't think this is governance yet. I don't think it's governance. I think this is more of a, well, Tommy, when we started doing Let's Learn Fabric series initially, we had made a ton of items in a very short amount of time. Would have been nice to kind of like, okay, here's all the data sets that we're building around baseball, right? Having a baseball tag on them. So like there's a lot of other things. We had like New York taxi data, we had baseball data, we had some lake houses. And so, when you start looking at like the chain of things that you're building inside a workspace, it's actually pretty easy to build a pipeline, a lake house, a semantic model, and a report all inside the chain that's all related to a particular tag or topic. So that's kind of interesting to me there. But this is doing is extending the tagging experience into domains, which I think as a governance thing, every workspace should be at least attached to a domain. I think that should be a rule, and you should really consider focusing on what are the domains my organization needs, and if every workspace had to get shoved into a single domain, what does that look like for your organization? Because I think that really, especially for me, I'm in the admin. When I go and look at my list of domains, it's a scrollable list at this point, right? And having the ability to click or select different domains, a handful of them, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 domains, that's really helpful to see all the workspaces that are attached to those areas. So I think that's actually really important. I'm going to give you just kind of a bonus one here as well, Tommy. One thing that has really frustrated me when I'm working in pipelines is the ability, there's the auto refresh of pipelines. So what does this mean? The feature talks about auto refreshing when you hit run. When you run the pipeline, down in the window that shows you like how far along the pipeline has completed its jobs, if you have a lot of short running tasks that take a couple seconds to run, the window that is doing the approvals of like all the items that are getting completed successfully, it just it's real time. Every time it gets another date, it just updates. And so sometimes you're looking at something, or maybe a failure occurred and other things are still running, or something happened and you're trying to look at what did it do or how much data was being copied. And when you're doing that, the window continues to move on you. And so I have experienced the pain of like, oh, stop moving. And so what they've done now is there is a turn off auto refresh on just the window that shows you the progress of all the pipeline runs, all the actions in the pipeline. And I actually think that's really very useful, because now I can run the pipeline, turn off auto refresh, watch some things go. I can click the refresh when I want. It'll then get the latest data, bring that in, and then I can just kind of watch what's left there. Okay, now I can see, okay, this is how far along we are. click the refresh button again, nothing moves. I can go look at the different pipelines, the inputs and the outputs, and it's not constantly moving the screen around so that I can't see things. So I think that's a good workaround for that system. So it makes it easier for you to use the output of a pipeline run when you're using testing. So I think that's kind of fun.
And sometimes it is the little things too. It's just that
That's a paper cut.
I know, but it makes a difference, man. So
all right. Good. Any final items you'd like to point out, Tommy, that are going to make your life easier? Any paper cuts that you found from this update?
Honestly, a lot of things we're going to be talking about too in future episodes, but nothing that stuck out where it's like, whoa, they haven't talked about this yet. It's just much more of a summary. It's just like the data integration with the Copilot Studio. That's the big one. I think that's the big focus that they've had.
Yeah, the only other thing I would probably point out here is Microsoft is bringing a lot of transactional data systems directly into Fabric. One of such system is Azure Cosmos DB is now in preview inside a Fabric workspace. So now you can build a Cosmos database directly inside Fabric. And I feel like this speaks, I feel like SQL Server being available inside the workspace and now Cosmos DB. These are two very transactional based databases that live inside Fabric. And my only hesitation with this one, and just give a quick thought here, and then we'll move on to the main topic here. My quick thought about this one is I like Cosmos DB. It's super flexible, very fast response time. And if you design your system well, Cosmos DB is great for like doing like point lookups. Find this record, open up this one thing super fast, getting data out. I don't feel like Cosmos DB is very efficient when you're aggregating a lot of data through the Cosmos DB, like aggregations onto lots of records or small things. It does do a good job. It's very fast, but it's very parallel processing. Like it can do a lot of things quickly. What I will say though is the billing model of Spark, like you have the auto billing or auto scale billing for Spark, where you can turn on Spark and you can let the Spark compute basically be billed through Azure, but you can run it inside Fabric. That pricing model for things that are, let's call it operational, that works for me. Like that's kind of what I would like to see for like SQL databases, Cosmos DB, and Spark, because then I'm paying for Fabric to be there. But when I use the Cosmos DB and when I use the SQL database, right? If those things are truly operational, I can't have those machines go down when there's just, for whatever reason, a high demand on users showing up to an application, right? Whatever. So I'd rather be notified. I'd rather not start throttling my SQL server and start throwing 500 errors or whatever, 400 errors. Hey, I can't access the data. You've run out of capacity. I'd rather not do that on Spark, SQL, and now Cosmos DB. So if those things could be like auto build or auto billing applied to that directly into Azure, and so there's like a line item on my bill that says, hey, this is auto build through the Fabric piece, but it's going to be a separate cost to you. I actually would be very much pro using these tools a lot more in Fabric and feeling comfortable actually building the data system, like build the transactional system using the back end of the SQL Server or the Cosmos DB. That makes a lot of sense to me. So I don't know if we're ever going to get there. I think we're doing it for Spark. I think it's a good pattern to follow. I'd like to see that pattern also evolve to SQL and also into Cosmos DB from a operational or transaction system. That way there's no thresholds. I'm not going to get throttled.
I don't know if you know how profound I honestly think what you're saying. You're making me think, Mike, because what would be the worst thing you could tell your boss if something went down in Fabric, but you're using it as critical? It's like, well, does it have all the features? Did it have a No, it's just the standard out of the box. It's like, why would you do that kind of thing? So, and I think that's a lot for organizations who, again, some people they're getting their data, and the first time they're going to really be able to see it is in Fabric, and it's amazing. But a lot of organizations too have an infrastructure set up, and they're going to be looking at everything going, well, does it have, like whatever zones or like a fail safe? Is it, it's going to go through all the technical things that it's in a sense requires for their own data. It's like, and also it could fail if someone has a really bad semantic model or data flow. They're like, that there's no point. So I think that's a very interesting point as we continue to dive in with where the data, like, kind of that role of this particular data. I want all my data in Fabric, but
Yes. I mean, I do too. And I
Yeah.
want it to be like the reporting side is what I really need it there. So yes, I do want all the data there. But my barrier to entry right now is I don't want to build a transactional system there because I'm worried that if I build a transactional system directly inside Fabric, do I get myself captured? Like, is it?
Well,
Am
there's
I
the
am I
billing
going
for
to hit a
SQL for
ceiling? Like,
storage.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be able to. I don't want to be able to hit a ceiling. I want to be pay per use, right? If I use a little bit, I pay a little bit. If I use a lot of it, I'll pay a lot of it. Like, it's fair, right? I use more, I'll pay more. That seems balanced with what we want to produce here. So that mentality, I really would like to have that be how we handle working with Fabric now, especially with these transactional systems we're trying to put in place here. Okay. Anyways, that being said, let's move on to our main topic. Tommy, give us an introduction here. This is a SQLBI article. We love everything that comes from SQLBI. The team is always extremely well thought out. And now this is coming directly from Kurt on the SQLBI channel. So give us an introduction. What is Kurt talking about here, Tommy, and where should we take this conversation?
So I think over time, maybe some of you have heard of these MCPs and you saw them on GitHub or Twitter, and like, oh, they've changed my life. Like, sounds like a developer thing. And it kind of did start out that way. And we have been talking about it before on the podcast, but never in the world of Fabric. Let's kind of take a step back before we dive into the whole article here. We're dealing with something that, and Kurt is showcasing the ability to use what's a concept in a lot of AI tooling called MCPs, or model context protocols.
Mhm.
What these are simply ways for allowing you to communicate with other services, to do tooling, resources, or in a sense, prompting. Very popular like model MCPs right now are simply Notion, Excel,
Mhm.
GitHub information. There's also ones that make your whatever agent or host AI you're working with think differently. It's going to task plan. It's going to always ask questions back. So it will basically shape and provide more enhancements to whatever AI that you're working with. This is very built by Anthropic, who does Claude, and it works in the Claude desktop. It also works in VS Code and in actually a ton of other, in a sense, applications that support it. Now, anyone can build them. These are completely open source. If you wanted to build one, for example, there's an MCP. If I want to execute commands on my computer, why would I then have this MCP? It's like, well, AI is already good, and I have these things. Well, the difference is I can go into, in this case, Claude, and I'm going to go into this conversational piece. And rather than having to always upload a document or then have to do the command, it says like, hey, can you look at this directory, find any files that are like this? And you know what? Let's rename everything. And as you're doing that, tell me yada, yada, yada. And do I have anything from Notion that would be helpful? So it can basically take all of these enhancements, again, not just a connection to something, but really providing the capabilities with certain keywords that will trigger it. For example, when I want my AI to kind of take a step back, if I needed to do a lot of, in a sense, step by steps, there's a protocol to do that. Now, that's the AI side of it. These are open source. And what Kurt has found out here is, there's been some developments here for us, the data people in the Power BI world, where, okay, let's take this concept. Let's just plug it into a lot of the common Fabric API, REST APIs, and let's see what happens. And that's really what this article is introducing and going, oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it also sounds like this is another way of, again, this is another, call it maybe an abstraction, an interface. It's like an API for the API kind of thing. It's the idea that you can talk to a large language model using natural English language, whatever. You talk to a large language model, and then the large language model has information about different APIs that it can use to go talk to something else, right? So this is kind of all built on the backbone that like every app that we have nowadays kind of has its own API layer, right? There's an API layer in front of it. And so you can, the large language model is informed of, hey, did you know you could run a DAX query by using this execute DAX query API? Here's how the syntax of that works. So that way the AI could, when you ask a question like, hey, large language model, I'm looking for something specific around this data in the sales table, right? It can then figure that out. It can then understand, okay, if I want to write a DAX query, this is what I would need to write against this table. Let me go figure out what DAX is. Okay, now I understand how to write a DAX query. And then it tries a DAX query against that table.
Right.
And when I think later on in the article, they actually there's a really good diagram here that I really want to highlight later on. Kurt goes through and says, how does an MPC server compare to conversational Power BI tools? Mm-hmm. So in traditional, he basically compares Copilot against the MCP, and he's calling it the host app. And I think he's even using like the Claude host app, like icon for the name. Icon there. But basically he's comparing like Copilot versus an MCP, and Copilot says you ask the Copilot a question, Copilot figures out some things and has no context to other documents, other configuration, other things, and it goes right to the data, digs around the data, and returns one result with one query. Mm-hmm. The difference here is with the MCP items, you're able to add other enrichment elements, right? I can add other documents. I can add documentation. I can add common questions that users may answer. And here's an approved or an acceptable answer to that. All that's used as like context, additional information.
Right. And
then his diagram is awesome here because it's not just one query back to the model. He's actually showing like multiple queries. The MCP can test multiple queries to figure things out. I ran that test. That wasn't what I wanted. That's a different table. Let's look for a different table. Okay, here. That's not what I wanted. Let's try a third table. So it can actually run multiple queries, bring all the data back, and then from the context of documentation, the data returning, then it can come back and produce visual tables back to the user. So this is a totally different experience than we're used to using AI with.
Well, and honestly, Mike, it will feel seamless. And I think that the one thing that cannot be emphasized enough on why is this important, if you're doing it, even if you're just dealing with a lot of these chat agents in general, is it's not just, again, a connection to it, but it is still that whole large language model with that new capability. So however that large language model already reasons now, it's not like, hey, you can only do the REST API command get table. Well, it's going to do it in a way that it sees fit in terms of, kind of diving through it. So you are allowing the tool or the AI to already act as it's going to, and simply now given a more capability, which again is, you can see very quickly how much this can affect us.
So my concern here is, Tommy, so I have a concern around this one, right? So when we talk about these things, this is where I struggle a little bit in this space, right? There's a balance between how much instructions do I give to the AI in order to get the output that I desire, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of these things are, whenever I go into a data model or I'm trying to get information, there's like an expectation, right? I have an expectation of like what the results should be, or I'm kind of either doing like, again, maybe I'm doing the same thing the MCP is doing here a little bit. I have a hypothesis about what I want to answer from the data. I state my question, I go in the data, I dig around a bit, and then try and have an open mind, because sometimes you can make the data do whatever you want for your hypothesis, but like you try and come back and say, okay, here's the resultant information. And when you're doing this, you're kind of running multiple queries. You're testing the information out, and it sounds like you're able to exchange some of this. My concern here is how consistent can we get the results to come out from the language MCP servers? Like if I ask a question and you ask the same question, Tommy, and someone else asks the same question, are we guaranteed to get the same result back? I mean, maybe the words are slightly different, or maybe how it phrases, like, the statement of like, I found the summary to be this, and I may not say that for me. It may say something slightly different, but at the end of the day, like, it can't be wrong. I don't want it to give me the wrong SQL or DAX statement or the wrong table of data back from what I was asking it. So like, there's some things there that like, I can let it do things, but I'm always kind of somewhat skeptical of, is it actually right? Can I really trust the results? So how does that work with this, Tommy? Like I don't think Kurt really addresses this.
Concept. This is an important concept because speaking of which, I did break Gemini the other day. I was really, because here a few things on what you said. I would just want to break it down because one, the nice thing about LLMs and AI, they are very good with coding, which means they're very good with Python, which means they're very good when it comes to data analysis. Actually, one of the easier things, so in so many ways, in so many concepts that they work, is being able to analyze a data set, go through it, etc. Now, in terms of, are you going to pull the same metric for me with the same filters? That's up to the AI, unless it's explicitly given.
Yes.
More importantly about this, Mike, is again, this is why where we're starting off here. Kurt brings up this idea of this conversational piece. If you want a tool just to retrieve a given metric for you, then that's not what this is, unless you have that kind of agent, so to speak, with that has those restrictions on here are your tables, here are your particular things that you're wanting to do back. If we're just having a conversation and saying, hey, what are my sales for, or whatever you're actually asking to do, it's going to reason, it's going to take the instructions that was given, but no, there's no like, in a sense, overs that you can have to ensure that it's going to return the same thing. To a point, I was testing Claude, Google, and AI with a data set, and I wanted to see how well could it think of new metrics if I had a report. And
interesting.
Data, and
interesting.
and it's actually, that's worth a whole conversation, because I'm like, these metrics are fine, but what else could we do with this? Like, what would be something that could be, and I'm actually already incorporated them. However, Google, because I didn't like their answers, it broke, and it kept telling me every time I responded to that chat, I am an agent from Google. I've been instructed to help you in any way. How can I help? I'm an agent from Google. It's almost like it had to remind itself of what it was. Like, that's not, but no, but the point being, Mike, is
interesting.
But there's a few things. I mean, before we go into even the governance thing here too, is it going to, or it's not a simple, and this is the concept, it's not a simple do a request, get the same result protocol, because
that's true.
And we have to understand that off the bat. It has that ability, but how it's going to interpret that and what it's going to do with that, it should be smart enough, but obviously we know. Now, here's the thing, the difference though, we've never talked about this with conversational data. We've always been talking about reports and the visual side of it. And hey, how well can it do, how well can it be my own data scientist for me? But Kurt doesn't start off with that, which I thought was very interesting. His first example is for an author, a Power BI creator, go, something doesn't look right in this report. I think one of the metrics is off. Not, hey, give me the number is.
Yes, he lands with that. He lands with that analogy.
This is very different. I think we've talked, honestly, even the way you and I have thought about AI's role in terms of for the creators.
All right, let's unpack this concept. So what you're describing here is more like a pair programmer, right?
Yes.
You build something in the let me couple context pieces here. I'm adding model context to our conversation. Okay. Halfway down the article, actually not even a quarter of the way down the article, the very beginning portion, Kurt does this little section called AI in Power BI, the story so far. And it shows you kind of two worlds. There's a creator experience world, and then there's the consumer experiences. So do I create things with Power BI, or I'm consuming content from Power BI with the consumer side? On the creator side, you have Copilot, DAX queries or DAX query view, Kindle editor, right? You have generate a measure description, you have generate report page, you have suggest synonyms and suggest queries or steps, right? So there's a lot of AI kind of slightly incorporated features there. And then now there's the MCP land where you can incorporate your own third-party tools with it as well. So third-party tools could build things for you using the MCPs. On the consumer side, we have other things like, okay, I'm going to ask questions about the data. I can use Copilot. I could summarize my report. I could ask data questions. I could use chat with my data. These are all kind of legacy features of Power BI already. And now you have Fabric Data Agents, which is trying to build that more catered, AI experience to those users. You have a Power BI report Q&A, which no one uses. It's not even, I mean, it's on there, but no one uses it. And now there's a Power BI MCP server that can be on the viewer, like can be used for the viewer of the report. So I think it's really important here, Tommy, what you're going into right now is we're talking about two worlds, and we're going to focus our attention right now on the creator world. That's the team that is building the reports, building the semantic models. And this I like, because Kurt seemed to be very impressed by the fact that the AI was able to scrape through the model, find a inappropriately named column, and solve some problems and suggest some information about it. So it almost feels like to me like I'm doing like a code review. Hey, I built something, AI. This number looks off to me for some reason. Can you help me figure out why this number looks off based on my expectation? And let it think a bit around why that is happening and see what it can come up with. Does that make sense?
No, Mike, I think that's the biggest part here is the way that Kurt's in a sense showcasing you is it's like a message you would send to your colleague on Teams.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Tommy, I'm finished my model. Can you just take a look at this? Like, give me a second set of eyes. Exactly. I want to make sure I'm doing it. Or, hey, I'm about ready to roll this to production. Can you just take another gaze at this? Right. Does it look right? Or, maybe you're the QA person. This table, this visual doesn't really match my expectations of what the data is saying. Is there something wrong here? And the model, the MCP could be, there's an extra filter.
Right.
There's a really outlier piece of data on this particular customer, or maybe that should be fixed. And then you can step back and say, is it really a problem, or is that actually what the data is really saying?
Right. And that's such a big piece here, because that simple conversation, just asking it, I don't have to have 18 lines of code to say, here's what the context is. It's like, hey, this report doesn't look good. Since it's an MCP, Anthropic knows, okay, use this tool, use the list by workspace, etc. And Mike, I love what it even gave back here too, because it really allows, for the first time, not just the automation side of it, but I'm in Claude. Like, I'm just in my normal chat thing. I'm going to do that and search for best ways to make pizza after that. Like, that's the really cool part of this as well. And this, oh my gosh, I think this is, to me, Mike, actually, before I say, I'm not going to say game changer, because I learned my lesson there. Before we
could be, I think this is appropriate. Well, Tommy, I would argue with you. I think what we're walking into, I don't think it's finished yet. I think we're very early in the stage of what this is going to be able to do. And again, I'll give you just some of my hesitation here. Yeah, this is, I think this is game changer. I think if Kurt is so enamored by this, I should be paying attention 100%. Another thing I'll kind of pick your brain on here, Tommy, like, I know this is an early adoption. You, Tommy, are very comfortable with, it's MCP. Yeah, I'm going to stand up this MCP server, right? It's a bit of code you have to run locally on your machine. Average users, I don't think are going to be, right? So there's a barrier to entry here. Like, an average user, there's a lot of people talking about it. Until this becomes stupid simple, or even built into the desktop application, right? It doesn't really make sense to run an MPC server. Like, I had to go get code and download something, and like Kurt's even talking about how to build your own MPC servers, and I'm like, I want the benefits of it. I don't want to build all that. Like, I don't want to spend the effort or time, or maybe it's worthwhile my time, but it just seems like a new shiny toy right now, and I'm a little hesitant to go out and spend a lot of effort or time trying to figure. I don't want to run a lot of things locally on machine. And as I look at the landscape of what Power BI is doing, more and more and more experiences are happening in the web. We had desktop, but even just last week, I saw, Tommy, I don't know if you saw this, Tommy. If you go into the PowerBI.com service and you go edit semantic model, in the edit semantic model, there's the model view with all the tables. And now at the bottom, there's a brand new ribbon that appeared recently that's like, hey, here's now the new ribbon to switch between model view and now DAX query view. Yeah. Did you see that? Okay.
Yeah, I've been using it a ton.
And again, all in the service. You don't need to have desktop for this. It's just one more of these experiences that are all living inside like the cloud. And so when I look at this and say, I feel like it's backward, because now I have to run the MCP locally to talk to the cloud? Like, why doesn't this just exist somewhere in the cloud for me? This is where I'm like, I have a little hesitation because I'm like, it feels like we're taking a slight step backwards from where I run the MCP standpoint.
All that I would be okay with. And honestly, it is a very good point. But to me, where the problem still we are at with MCPs and all these other call them third-party AI tools is
Sure.
And this is the thing I've said before, it's not just MCPs, but Mike, they all work for the individual incredibly well. Right. But I have to set it up. Like there's no, and that's fine.
You kind of got to know what you're doing.
Right. Right. But even if I worked at a marketing company, if I was in marketing, right, and I wanted to use a lot of these tools, well, the best ones I'm going to have to stand up myself kind of thing, or, utilize that in the work. Sure. There's no rolling it out, much less, getting everyone to whatever download and install. And that's, I think, where the biggest hurdle is for a lot of this stuff. Is this really cool? You bet. Will your IT department let you do this?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's
probably not.
Thing. So that's one thing. Yeah. So there's a huge amount of risk
with letting someone take control of
right. Yeah.
your computer. Like it's right. doing things on behalf of you on your machine. Like I think that's a huge risk to IT people.
But not just that, it's also, well, if I get it, well, then what about the other people on my team? Am I the only one talking to AI? Because, and this is where I think the frustration is, because we have Copilot, right? We have Copilot that Mike, I think I'm not going to say what Kurt was thinking because I don't know it, but what I read from this article is we have proven here today what AI is capable of. Why Copilot doesn't have this ability right now? Because it shouldn't have to talk to an MCP, because it's freaking Copilot in Microsoft is beyond us. And I think I am seeing lately, Mike, and the capabilities we have with Copilot right now in Fabric are wanting, right? And it's because I can't do the conversational thing. Like I'm still asking, I can only ask general questions and I can only get general answers back. But because it doesn't feel like you're talking to Claude or ChatGPT, does it?
Correct.
It doesn't to me.
No. Again, this is where I'm like, things get very gray here. And again, I like the idea. And my other hesitation here, it feels like as well, Tommy, every month or two, we're talking, another model's released. Someone else, there's a new player in the game. Someone's got this new revolutionary thing. I also feel like to some degree, if I'm going to spend money on Claude or Grok or OpenAI or what, every other month, there's some other team leapfrogging a different team, building a whole bunch more things. I know you spend a lot of money kind of on a lot of different AIs to kind of test them all out and figure out which one's working. Yeah. And I look at this going like, I don't think we've settled enough. I think we're in a place here where it's all so new. There's too many moving pieces at this point. Like it probably doesn't even make sense to get locked down. Yeah, it's fun to experiment with. Maybe you can add a little bit of value here and there. But if I jump into an MCP today, will that MCP even be around in a month or two from here? Will something else have come out that's even better than that? So like, do I spend the time now to learn it, or should I just wait a little bit more and like just be familiar with it and wait until a better thing comes out in another month or two?
Honestly, Mike, is there something else that could probably come out and we're not talking about MCPs next year? Probably. But however, I think I'm going to say one thing in favor of it, but then really kind of hamper on the point where from an individual's productivity point of view, time being saved or just more you can do is incredible. But again, unfortunately, that's only for the individual who's using it, right? So this is not for a team of users unless they all have it. I can improve my workflow and the things I need to get done, whether it's going to be straight through Power BI and I'm working on a pipeline and I'm trying to figure out the right mapping and what needs to happen on the back end, to hey, I'm writing out this document and, I want this kind of thesis on X, Y, and Z. Let's work on this. And it works great for me. It works because the tools are set up for me, but this has not, and there is no model yet to how you roll that out to a team of BI people, much less a team of developers. That's the problem. And I think honestly, Mike, all these tools, they're meant for the individual. Like they will save you a ton of time.
Yes.
But let's say you started using the MCPs today and you're like, you know what, this is pretty awesome. And then someone on your team's like, hey, Mike, that looks pretty cool. Well, how do I do that? There's no just straight link. It's like, well, you got to install this, make sure you configure this. And they have to do their own setup. And I think that's where that's making it very hard.
Any little friction like that is going to just slow people down.
Oh yeah.
Any little friction.
Yeah. You can't afford that. Now, rather than on whether or not this can be adopted, I think I don't know if you had anything else on that. Because I want to. I
have one more thought on like Sam Altman. So Sam Altman recently was talking about his kids, right? So often, Tommy, we talk about our kids and how they're going to interact with computers on the podcast. Like, what is it going to look like for, your sons and daughters as you age and like they start using computers, right? My son's in high school. He's going to go through some like Microsoft Office class training thing. There's like some certification things that can happen there. Really cool, interesting stuff. But I'm looking at this going, already they're changing things. So my son was doing some video editing for school and he went through a program and he was like cutting the cuts and changing the words. And he didn't like how he said it here. So he like cut that part of the video out and would snip it and bring it back together. A lot of editing needed, like a very slow, tedious process, right?
The normal thing.
Well, I showed him what I do editing for video shorts. He's like, oh, this is way different. And then I showed him like how to auto AI generate B-roll and how you're, using a prompt to generate an image that you can then snip in to the video. Like, this is really interesting. So he really liked this new way of editing things. And he was like, wow, had I had this tool instead of doing what I did at school with editing, already he's seeing the shift of like, that was way more enjoyable. I could do a lot more high level thinking of the content of the video and like, making sure that it like is interesting and engaging content versus actually like doing the nitty gritty, like the work of the thing. So I think when Sam Altman was talking about this, he basically said, look, my kids are going to have access to computers that have more knowledge than they ever will. It'll be smarter than them in all areas for everything. Again, this is maybe 5, 6, 10 years from now, but like, I would agree with him. Like the AI already knows all the languages, all the syntaxes for like I could ask it, build this function in .NET. It'll do it. Now translate it to Ruby. Done. Make it in JavaScript. Done. Make it in Python. Done. Like it knows every language. So it doesn't really matter what I program in. It's more of along the line of, can I correctly give instructions to the AI? And Tommy, this is sad. Maybe not. Maybe it is. I don't know. We'll see. In my conversations with my family now, I'm now asking for, I need more model context. Like you've asked me a thing I don't understand. Please provide more context is what you're speaking about. And my family is starting to figure this out. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll give you some more instructions or some more additional. It's really weird because when you talk with other people, you're doing the exact same thing now. This is maybe my epiphany a bit is, before you could never do that with a computer. I could never add context to get a result different from the computer. I had to physically write out the code to get stuff done. Like never before now, I can give it context and that can be used and informed in the same way I would talk with another person. And that's really different than what we've been used to doing. And so I think we have to come into this world thinking like, okay, from the creator side of things, the AI experiences are going to be really well done because it's going to know how to do everything. And we can sit back and almost direct and guide a bit more. I feel like at some level, there's going to be a huge lull in the job market for entry-level app developers because no one's going to want to hire them. Like who would want to hire a brand new app dev that starts from nothing at this point? Why not just go buy a $200 AI agent to assist an already medium to professional level developer to make them more effective? Why not add Copilot to do code reviews before you get to the leader of your team to do code reviews? Right? There's a whole bunch of like low hanging fruit here pieces that it's going to be very difficult for like the job market for that entry level app developer. It's not Power Apps. Microsoft had the right idea. Everyone wants to build lots of apps, but Power Apps is not the solution. It was MCP and large language models. So they had the right idea. They didn't have the technology in place to actually make it a reality. And I think smartly, Microsoft has very heavily pivoted towards AI, and that's where they're at right now.
Yeah, no, Power Apps was one of the first ones, and I think dude, your son's mind is gonna be blown once he can see all the other stuff. I don't know how much he learned about the AI stuff, but again, and I think you're kind of saying what I wanted to say too, where what the article is going to show, and I think Kurt says at the end they're actually going to be doing a series on this. This is not because we want everyone to use this today. Now you could. This is all available online. So if you're like, you know what, I want to do this, I have the access. Knock yourself out. You got your weekend plans, and it will work just as well. But here's the thing: is what I think this is more showing, because we know there's going to be steps for this to be on a wider scale. But let's just appreciate here what's now actually capable, because I think to your point, Mike, the difference here is not simply that I can have a tool talk to another tool. It's like when there's natural language in Q&A, like, it's natural language, but I still have to ask it exactly the way that it wants, like, buy this, or, so it was natural language with, in their language. But this is all about, if AI doesn't even know the answer or has never done it, it will look at the set of tools and it will try to reason to figure it out. The
reasoning part is weird. That's the part that's different. It feels like, I agree with you on that one.
Right. So, and this is the big jump here. So whatever capabilities, and there's going to be more. I think that right now, I believe I've seen 3 major MCPs around that connect to Fabric in some way. And again, some of those are, you know what, you're going to be the person for helping people view reports. There's the one that's going to admin Power BI. It's like, you know what? Hey, I got a lot of notebooks. Can you help me move them around and organize them? Done. I don't have to give him more context. And these are the types of things, Mike. So from our role in this, it just goes back to this idea of the conductor area, the conductors era. Now, what I'm hoping, Mike, this is going to be, as we continue to see what's capable, I really hope that this also changes or enhances the current, what should already work, I think, just as well. The co-pilots in Fabric, they're good, but again, you can ask a general question, get a general answer. If I could do this, and you know what, I'm sure there's a lot of security on their end, but we are now seeing that it's available and that it's capable, and it just takes a normal Claude or your normal chat, LLM. This is not anything completely unique, Mike, besides just take ChatGPT, give it a little more information, and this is what it can do. And so let's appreciate how well these things work now, actually, that they're kind of going into our space.
I totally agree with that one. So I'm going to kind of like start wrapping here, Tommy. This is a very cool new world. I think this article is really good from Kurt. I think everyone should definitely take a look at it. I think it adds a lot of context as to where these MCP things are sitting inside the Fabric ecosystem, and where we might want to look at this from like a creator's perspective and a consumer experience perspective. Good article, really like it. Very well written. Again, Kurt is on point. I do miss some of the little goblins throughout the article. It's a little Kurt, I understand. This is a message directly to Kurt. Kurt, a great article, but the goblins are very interesting. There's a lot of words you wrote here.
Very relevant.
I now need to go to Copilot and summarize this article and other things, but it would be really nice to have a couple extra goblins show up here or there on the SQLBI. I'm going to miss that if you do more blog posts directly on the Microsoft or the SQLBI website. Anyways, really good idea. The conclusion here, I think Kurt is spot on point. The MCP server provides a great way for large language models to integrate with external services and information. He's going to go a bit deeper in this a little bit more. Really interested to see kind of how this is going to form and play out here. I just don't want to install them. I'm kind of resistant here. I'm gonna probably have to just jump in and do it. I don't want to install the MCP service. I just don't want to have to install one more thing on my machine to get it to work. I kind of want it to just be built as a part of the tools, the products.
Mike.
But maybe I'm just dragging my feet a bit too much here, Tommy.
Mike, do you have Node on your computer?
Node?
Node. NPM.
Oh, Node. I do have Node on my computer.
And you're done. You're good. There's nothing else. I know, Mike. I get it. I love this. I love local stuff, but
yeah, but every time I run Node, it's like you're out of date. Update to the new one. Like, oh my gosh,
how many updates you guys make? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I got to keep downloading, updating things. Like this is like I shouldn't be having to update things anymore. It should just figure itself out and update itself anymore. Anyways, thank you all so much for listening today. I hope you found this conversation around AI, this new thing called MCP, very informative. Definitely go check out the article from SQLBI. It's worth your time to go read. The link of the article is in the description below. Definitely check it out. It'll be there as well. With that being said, if you like this conversation, if you found everything that we hear fun, interesting, engaging as well, we'd really appreciate you letting other people know you found this content enjoyable. Please share it on social medias. Let them know that you were learning or playing around with MCPs, and maybe this article pushed you that way. Maybe our talk here pushed you more towards trying out an MCP. That being said, Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
Mike, just wait till we bring out the EMP MCP. So you can find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating, and it helps us out a ton. And make sure if you have a question, if you have an idea or topic, you want us to keep talking about this, or there's something else that we haven't talked about yet, well, you can ask us, and for free. We don't charge. Head over to PowerBI.tips/podcast. Leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central. And join the conversation on all PowerBI.tips social media channels.
I will say this, though. If you ask us questions, we're not as good as a large language model. And if you do ask us questions through the podcast, you can actually request topics or questions there as well. Feel free to do so, but be aware your responses may be hallucinated. Like your mileage, you kind of get what you pay for. So if it's free, you might not like the answer. So that being said, thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time on the podcast.